Did you ever give yourself a sermon? Well, today you're going to have that opportunity to give yourself a sermon. But I have to say some things first, and then you will talk to yourself. How's that? All right. Let's talk about this gospel passage. We have to put this in some content or context for you, because the content is very interesting. You know, a lot of times people look at this and they say, well, yeah, because, you know, Martha was mad, she was doing all the housework, and Mary was just sitting around listening to Jesus, and she says, hey, Jesus, tell my sister to help me out. Well, that's kind of simplistic. It's really not what's going on over here, because the important words in all this are, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and worried about many things. Martha has a lot of anxiety in her life. It's not just about Mary not helping her to serve the guests. Martha really is like most of us, because most of us experience a tremendous amount of anxiety in our lives. We seem to worry about everything. A lot of personal, well, we all have issues, don't we? You have issues? We all have issues. We have health issues, personal issues, family issues, financial issues. We all have them. We spend a lot of time worrying about them. And sometimes these issues cause us so much anxiety that we have to get some medication to help us out. So Big Pharma is making a lot of money on Xanax and other antidepressants. Not that they're bad, not that they're bad. If you need it, take it. You know, if you're miserable and you're sad and you're crying, you're nervous, you're anxious, and all the other stuff, take the pill. I prefer scotch, but it's up to you, right? All right. Let's talk about this whole thing of anxiety. And Jesus is really telling us that anxiety is a killer. It's not just a killer that it makes you nervous and upset and everybody else around you miserable. You know, when you're miserable, you make everybody else miserable too, don't you? Right? So just think of what you're doing to other people, right? You just wonder about the guests at this dinner reception. Martha is all angry, and they must have caught on that something just wasn't right. And Jesus, being Jesus, he caught on right away. Something's not right. And hey, Martha, you've got a lot of issues. And Jesus is going to give a lesson here as to how we can get control of our issues and knock fear out of our lives. See, fear cripples people. It cripples us. And we live in a society which is being crippled with fear. And it happens to us day in and day out. And I think there's something behind it. Once we're crippled by fear, we are no longer free. We're no longer free if we're crippled by fear. Because what happens then, we're afraid of everything. We're afraid to do anything. We're afraid to speak up when we have to speak up. We're afraid to go out of our house for fear we might come in contact with the latest strain of the COVID virus. See, this is what happens to people. And this really had a tremendous outbreak of fear and anxiety during this COVID crisis. And the media is still playing this up. It's going to come again in September. We've had many, many people suffering from tremendous fear, tremendous anxiety, and still are suffering for it. They are still suffering because they believe that the virus is still around and that it's going to come back in some other form. And so we've had a lot of people that, had to take antidepressants. A lot of people living on the edge, very, very nervous, not even enjoying a social life anymore, staying in their house. So you see, it cripples. It cripples. There are other things that are crippling people in our society. It's not just the fear of getting sick, But we have a fear now, especially of young people, of global warming. Look, I don't know what the heck is going on. I think it's the sun. I don't know. I mean, it's above my pay grade. Yeah, but it gets hot and cold, all right? But you have people believing that the world is going to go underwater very soon, especially if you live in Miami or Naples, and little children are being taught in school that global warming is going to cause a rise in the ocean and that our cities are going to be covered with water. They're telling us now, this is not, old Father O making this stuff up, that kids have a lot of anxiety over this. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And a lot of adults have anxiety over this too. And it's continually pounded into us by the media. Same thing with the COVID. It's pounded in, stay home, get 3 shots, get 4 shots, get 5 shots, get 10 shots. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Stick your head out the windows. I don't. But people are scared. A lot of anxiety. I just, saw this week. I'm saying to myself, this is really bad. So, if you think I'm exaggerating, think again, because I read there's a public service announcement up in New York City. And you know what they're worried about now? A nuclear attack by Putin. Look, I don't think Putin could be responsible for just about anything that's happening these days. He's moved into our heads, for crying out loud. And now you're saying there's going to be a nuclear attack? And you know what they're telling people to do? This was public service announcement. You know what they're telling people to do? Get out of your car and run to your house and take off your clothes and wash your clothes. This is insanity. I'm serious. You go look it up. This is insanity. Remember when we were in school, most of us, we had the drills for a nuclear attack, and we had to go under the desk. What was that supposed to do? I don't know. We were all scared. Had the kid in front of me, he lost control of himself. He got so scared the nuclear attack was coming. Big puddle there for the janitor to come and clean it up. That's what happened. All right. So we're living in a society that is riddled with anxiety and fear, and it's being continually pushed upon us by the media, social media. It's being pushed on us by big pharma, being pushed upon us by the big tech companies, and being pushed upon us by our own government. And sometimes you have to think about this stuff, and you say to yourself, why? It's a way of getting control over people. You make them scared enough, you can get them to do anything. And if you're somebody living up in New York City, and you believe that Putin is going to have a nuclear attack, and you're going to escape it by going into your house and washing your clothes, what has happened to us? It's irrational. It makes no sense. But yet people are falling into this again and again and again. And I'm reading now that at least 25% of people who are over the age of 18 are now on some kind of antidepressant. That's how bad it is. We don't have the numbers of those people who are getting their pills illegally. And the little kids that are getting their, what's that? Marijuana, to relax them. Imagine a kid relax. When I was a kid, you wanted to relax. What do what'd you do? You got yourself a bag of M&Ms and you relaxed. But this is where we are right now. Little ones having to go for all kinds of therapy because they're nervous. They're all full of anxiety. They can't even concentrate. I'm hearing about kids, and this has been going on for a while, Adderall, because they can't focus, because they're nervous. Imagine what they're watching on television. Imagine on live stream or on their computers. Imagine what they're watching. Imagine what they're hearing in school. These little children, over these last couple of years, they were scared out of their wits. They had to wear masks in school. They had partitions up between the kids. We have a society that is riddled with fear. And I think a lot of it, as I said, it's being done on purpose to control us. Now, let me tell you about Jesus. Jesus said again and again, he said, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. He wants us to be fully alive. He wants us to be fully free. Thomas Jefferson said that the God who made us gave us freedom at the same time, and Jesus does not want us to be slaves to fear. That ruins our lives. It ruins our society. I'll tell you a story. I had a funeral yesterday. Great guy passed away, Roger Tews, and he was originally from New York City. He got mugged in the subway, and the mugger had a gun. You know what he said to the mugger? Go ahead, shoot me. I'm in God's hands. How many of us can do that? I'd be saying, Mr. Mugger, please don't do anything, whatever you want. Right? But, I'm in God's hands. And see, once our society, once we wipe out God, and that's what's going on again and again and again. They want God out of society. Why? If there is no God, there is no security. There is no sense that I am in God's hands and that God is going to take care of things and he's going to take care of me. So, where do you go to find this sense of security that you need to get rid of all your anxiety? And Jesus told us. He told Martha, Martha, you got to come to me. How do we do that? Mary chose the better portion. She's listening to me. We go to the scriptures. I hope you have a Bible in your house. I hope you do. And I'm going to recommend to you now a psalm that is one of the most comforting psalms that I have ever read. And I recommend it to you. Whenever you feel that anxiety coming up, whenever you want to reach for that scotch, all right, Psalm 62. So now you're going to give yourself the rest of the sermon.